Well, good afternoon, podcast listeners. Welcome to the interview portion of the program. I'm Linda Carlson, also known as Brasse the Dwarf. Oh, which means that we have to switch over to the correct way of reading things. Today, joining me are two special chaps from the EQ2 dev team. Dave Georgeson, whom you all love or loathe, as the case may be, also known as Smoke Jumper, and he's the executive producer of the entire EQ franchise. And a new face that, well, you can't see it, but a new face that you can hear for the first time in a long time, and that's Akil Hooper, who some of you know as Lindro from days past. So, you've been gone for a while. Welcome home, Akil.
Thanks. Good to be back.
And so I'm thinking back now, because you've been a fixture in the community for a really long time now. When did you first start with SOE? Wasn't it like in the spring of 2001 or something like that, 100 years ago?
Yeah, it was something like that. It started back in CS right around the launch time of original Vallee, which is kind of fitting, I guess. A little circular there.
It is. It was the smell of it that drew you back, right?
Yeah, I like ice.
So how did you make the transition from customer service to the dev team?
Like a lot of the people who made that transition, I came through the EverQuest apprentice program and worked my way up through there.
So what was your first job as a developer?
I was making content for the old EverQuest Legends server.
Ah. All right. Now, I know that you snuck away into the darkness, into the period of time that will forever be known as when we had to do without Akil. And that was something like May 2008, am I correct there?
That's correct, yeah.
And then you just started back again when?
July 11th or 12th, right around there.
Yeah, and you don't remember anything about what happened in between, right?
I know very little about what happened in the dark days.
So tell us, what brought you back to SOE?
Dave Georgeson.
Really? He hunted you down?
He did.
Found you in a cave?
He hunted me down. It was convenient. I was someone that knew a lot about EverQuest and EverQuest 2, and they needed someone who knew a lot about EverQuest and EverQuest 2, so it seemed like a pretty good fit. So,
Dave, you just called him up out of the blue one day. Can you tell us how that conversation went?
Well, I didn't actually talk to him. We hired hunter-killers to go find him, and once they found him, they drug him back by the scruff of his neck.
That's terrific. And so you just keep him chained to his desk now?
No, actually, we heard that Akil was looking around for a job at exactly the right time, and he was such a good fit because, well, everybody on the team, most everybody on the team already knows him. He obviously knows the product backwards and forwards. Mm-hmm. In fact, he knows EQ.
I knew it.
Well, he's 2 years out of date, but we'll get him caught up quick. And of course, he's an accomplished lead designer.
Aye.
So since we had the vacancy, he was a perfect fit, and even locally, he was even in the area.
Which is even better.
It was just one of those no-brainers. We were real lucky to find him, and as soon as we did, we talked him into coming back.
And of course, he's a well-respected designer within the community as well, so he's familiar with players. We don't have to do too much work to reintroduce him, and the hate mail will soon be flowing just like it always did.
Yeah, I actually haven't posted a hello on the forums yet because I wasn't quite ready for all the PMs that I'm sure that I'm going to start getting as soon as this goes live.
I'd advise you to adopt the philosophy of not responding to private messages. Otherwise, they never stop.
Oh, yes.
But do you plan to be active on the forums again?
I do plan to be active on the forums. There's a lot. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to respond to, and it's hard to pick and choose what you're gonna respond to because you obviously can't respond to everything.
Right. And
Akil can be the good cop. I'll be the bad cop.
Oh, I like that.
See, that makes life so much easier. Smoke Jumper has so much practice in the bad cop department. He won't let you down there.
I have my Satan hat. I can wear it anytime.
I used to be the bad cop, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, so invest in your white hat. It'll all be good. Yeah. So now your forum handle, are you sticking with Lindro?
I am, yeah.
So where did that name come from?
I kind of picked it out of the blue. It was my first day in CS, and they told me I had to come up with a GM name. And so I wrote some letters down on a piece of paper and started shuffling around and added an O to the end, and that was it.
Wow, that is so random. That's like the random name generator.
It is, yes.
Old school.
Yeah, real old school.
I remember my lead at the time asked me, "Are you going to be a woman?" I'm like, "No, it's Lindro. It ends with an O. That's clearly male. That's a masculine."
All right, so podcast listeners, if any of you think his name sounds too feminine, let us know. I'm sure you'll be writing in about that. So, did you find that things had changed much in your absence? You were gone for almost 3 years.
Oh, yes, a lot has changed. A very good bit has changed, and stuff is even changing now.
So, for the better, for the worse? Do you feel sort of like a fish out of water, or is it...
How you answer that one?
I don't feel like a fish out of water, but I feel like I need to get my footing again. I'm trying to figure out everything that's going on, and I think that things have changed for the better, but there've been a decent number of changes to catch up with. But the game is still the same game at the core. Like, it's still EverQuest 2. It still feels like home.
Yeah, it certainly does. So now I want to know about, you've been gone for a while and you come back. What sorts of new ideas or attitudes are you bringing to EverQuest 2 now? Is there anything specific that you want to bring to the game?
I think I need to get to know where the game is now before I can really put it in a direction. Like, the game has a momentum, and it is not healthy for someone to come in and try and take all that momentum and turn it 90 degrees.
You know, your team is sitting there right now going, thank God for that. Now we don't have to assassinate him in his sleep.
Yeah, but I've actually had a couple conversations where someone said, that's not what we're going to do. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to work that way anymore. So there are little things that are that I see differently than the lead before me, but I'm not going to make any major changes for a while. I've always focused on content. I'm a big content guy. I love stories. I love storytelling. I love quests. I love making exciting dungeon content. So, but there's already that in EverQuest 2. They already do that. So
there's always the fear that we're going to move away from that, though. So this the hiring of yourself is a great reaffirmation that that's still the core of the game. So now, before we move on to the specific game questions, we do get a lot of questions from fans who seek advice on how they can become fancy pants game designers as well. Now, you came up out of CS, but what advice do you have for people who would also like to break into the industry and take your job one day when you're not looking?
I generally tell people the same thing. The best thing to do is to learn, is to have something that you can show someone when you apply for a game developer job. So pick up, there's so many games out there that have good development tool sets in the back end. So pick up one of those games, learn how to build your own game, learn how to tell stories. So when you come to apply for a job, you can say, hey, do you have this game installed on your computer? I've got a mod here that's 3 hours of gameplay and has a good quest and has a nice dungeon in it. And you can play it and see that I can do this, because tools are tools. Like, you can teach anyone coming in to learn tools. You can't teach people to tell good stories or to make compelling dungeons. You can, to a certain extent, kind of course correct people, but it's kind of a sensibility that you have to get the job, and then can be honed and polished. So to learn that and prove that you can do that is probably the best way to get in.
One of the things people don't necessarily realize about design is it's a lot like being able to illustrate or being able to play music. You either have a knack for it or you don't. And it's not something that can be taught. You can learn methods, you can learn processes and tools and things like that, but you either get what's fun or you don't.
So you're saying that it's an innate creative process that you then have to assemble the tools that you need and learn them in order to express yourself.
Yeah, you can learn logic, you can learn process, but you can't learn that sense of knowing when things
Aesthetics.
are right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, excellent.
I'd also tell people to pick up a scripting language, because once you learn one, you can always learn another one, and being able to prove that you can script a little bit will help you anywhere in the industry, no matter what you're doing. All designers do some level of scripting these days.
Indeed. Well, excellent advice there from both Akil and Dave. So now let's talk a little bit about Game Update 61, which launches Tuesday, August 23rd. Are we still on track for that?
As far as you know.
Actually, you guys are pretty good at hitting deadlines. I'm kind of impressed. Now, one of the features that's coming out with Game Update 61 is re-itemization and AA revamp. Now, are you scared?
Are we scared?
You're touching on sacred cows here.
There is a lot of stuff getting touched. There are lots of files getting changed. And whenever you do that, it's hard to not be scared. You'd be insane to not be scared.
I'm insane.
But it's
That's
not,
why you get to be bad cop.
It's not insane. It's not this like, oh my God, something's going to go wrong. It's just like there's just so much stuff changing. It's impossible to look at it all at the same time. But you look at pieces of it and you say, okay, this looks good, and this looks good, and this looks good, and this looks good. I take these 3 pieces together and they look good, and that's how you deal with your fears. But yeah, you are insane.
Well, I am insane, but. Vallee we used was the first draft of the tools for itemization of an area. And although everybody will agree that there were rough issues with that first process, since then we've developed better and better tools on how to make sure that this stuff works. So Vallee was kind of a test bed for what we're doing. Now, granted, we're on a completely different scale of items now. We're talking somewhere between 40 and 50,000 items. So there's a lot of stuff to look at, and clearly we're not going to hand check every single one of those items. There's no way. I don't care how big our QA department is.
It's impossible.
So we have to rely on these systems. But spot checking with them and everything like that, things look good. Mm-hmm. We know that at the very worst, the itemization is going to be way better in a lot of the areas of the world than it was before, because the itemization was piss poor in a lot of the areas.
There you go. An admission right there about how we're always seeking to improve stuff.
Yeah, the players are not surprised by that.
No, they're not.
But the beautiful thing about it is, since we are, I don't want to taunt a dwarf by saying bearding this particular issue, but...
That's all right, we can take it. I just drink more.
Since we're attacking this issue, what we are doing is legitimizing all of the content in the game again. So now you're not stuck to just playing the Golden Path. You can now play anything and get good items, which is great for the game.
It really opens up the field again if you're a new player or leveling up alts, that sort of thing.
So yeah, it's hard, but it's worthwhile. It's a risk that we feel is really critical and very cool, and it will be a foundation piece for everything that we do from now on as we make more and more and more of the world adventurous content that you can do at any time. Okay?
Right. Now, the next thing, of course, and I'm kind of surprised this is coming in so soon, the ability for those little fey flappy things in the Arasai to actually fly. That's actually going in. Tested?
It is
finished.
I've done
ready.
It. I've flown as an Arasai. I haven't done it as a Fae yet.
Nah, you're kind of an Arasai type, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, they've got some pretty slick animations that some like nice turns and banks. It looks really good when the
so now,
Arasai fly.
For those who aren't familiar with this, there is a minimum level that you have to be to fly, right?
Just like flying mounts, you have to get to 85.
Okay.
You have to do the quest.
Long quest, difficult quest, painful quest?
It's reasonably long. It's like the other flying quests.
All right. I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and I think you'll see a lot of little flappy guys out there, mine included. Well, mind you, I'm not quite old enough yet. Okay, guess what I'm going to be doing for the next while is leveling up my little flappy.
Trade skill your way up.
Yeah.
Get to 90 in a trade skill.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. A lot of people may not realize, like, I kind of surprised myself today. I have a level 66 wizard, and I logged in, and I was like, oh, I should buy the Burning Griffin. I don't have that. So or Incandescent Swiftwing, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's a Burning Griffin. Yeah.
So
awesome.
So I bought it, and I equipped it, and I started flying with it. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm only 66. Oh, right, I'm a level 90 alchemist. So you can go the other way.
That is tremendous news, especially for those of us who do a lot of crafting. And so, now here's a change for you. I bet you never thought you'd see Beast Lords coming back to EQ2, right?
I did not. I was
going back to the Dave is insane thing.
I'm sure that people will find the quote, so I'll quote myself. A few years ago, I said that we'll add Beast Lords to the game when all 24 classes are perfectly balanced and happy. And actually, somebody called me out on that in a meeting the other day. And I say, well, clearly we're adding Beast Lords in the game, so all classes must be perfectly balanced and happy.
Perfect. Ends that argument.
Yeah,
okay, there you go, guys.
Yeah.
So it's all set now.
We can edit this out later.
Yes, you can, but come on, that's funny stuff. No, I think that
people are going to find that quote.
They will find it.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that I think one thing we've all learned as an industry is the fact that you can never say never, because you can't predict what's going to happen 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah.
Technology changes, the community changes, the games themselves change. You never know what you're going to be doing. So the two words we must never use at SOE again are soon and never.
Although I can say that EverQuest 2 will never be a 2D Flash game.
What if we put it on mobile devices?
EverQuest 2.
Okay. All right, so Game Update 61 also includes the first quest involving Beast Lords.
That's correct. It's the signature line quest, the signature. What are we calling it? An introduction? Prelude quest.
Prelude.
Thank you. Is telling the story of where the Beast Lords come from and why they're coming back into the world. It's building up to the release of the Beast Lords.
And I think we have Kyle and Paul coming in after this to talk about that particular Prelude event as well. Everyone's very excited about it. Just wanted to pass on a line from Calthine from Zam. She was very excited to hear that you are back. And she says, Lindro's back! Yay! Ask him to spin some fire for us.
I'd love to.
So, what is she talking about? Do you actually play with fire?
I do.
Indoors?
Outside.
You're in building 3, right?
I don't.
So we're safe over here.
You're perfectly safe.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just going to say, I just wanted on record, this is the guy that just called me crazy.
So I fire dance with staff and a tool called poi, which are they're burning balls at the end of chains, and you swing them around and dance to music. And
see what I mean?
Yeah.
That is nuts. Do you still do it now, actively?
I did it last night, actually, and the night before.
We got to get this on video.
I've got video.
Really?
Uh-huh.
We have got to upload that.
Okay.
Send it over to Tiffany, and we'll make sure that we get that online.
I'll have him wear the Lucan costume while he does it.
Is it flammable?